Case of Hawaii's 1st District and Representative Jill Tokuda of Hawaii's 2nd District. Representative Case, you're now recognized for a 5-minute statement.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Ranking Member, members of the subcommittee. Good morning still. Aloha. And first of all, for all of the people of Hawaii, thank you so much for your expressions of concern and for your focus in this hearing. I appear before you today as the former representative for the 2nd Congressional, which is Maui, and as one who, like so many around our country and our world, feel a deep personal sense of loss. But most importantly, I appear before you as one with my colleague, Ms. Tokuda, of our 2 representatives from Hawaii, because in Hawaii, we really don't think about district lines. Districts don't matter in Hawaii. Maui and Lahaina are part of all of Hawaii. And this incredible tragedy was and is a tragedy for West Maui, for Maui, but it is a deeply felt tragedy for all of our Hawaii, and we are all in for Maui. Ms. Tokuda, who's been a constant on Maui, devoted to Maui's needs since the early days of this tragedy, will describe for you a little bit more personal detail what happened, what the situation is on the ground. We'll relay some very personal stories that I hope drive home the point of the true situation and what our path must be going forward. And as you consider the testimony today and our own future path here in Congress, I'd like to leave you with about 3 thoughts on an overview. First of all, I agree that Congress's role and involvement is critical. In a disaster such as this, only our federal government can muster the resources and the energy and the scope of critical assistance that is going to be necessary to truly address a tragedy of this nature. And by focusing the attention and concern of Congress on the Maui disaster, you highlight the critical needs here. And I think you also highlight the path forward in terms of making sure that this doesn't happen in other communities throughout our country, because each tragedy must offer lessons to be understood and learned. Otherwise, it's simply going to be repeated, and the lives that we have lost, the community that we have lost, will be disrespected. But as this tragedy can offer lessons, at least Hawaii and those that have been lost can offer something to the rest of our country and the world. And so your focus here is really critical, and your questions have been relevant and critical, and I thank you for them. Second, the full focus of our collective efforts must remain on Maui. We are only 51 days after a very sudden and terrible tragedy, and I think it's important to understand the reality of Maui and Hawaii today. Of course, we have almost 100 confirmed dead, but we simply have not identified the remains of many, and we have many that are still missing. That effort must continue. We have a community of some 12,000, which is fully displaced, 7,800 in hotel rooms, full efforts on locating difficult-to-locate interim housing. We have a year-plus debris removal project that has only just begun. We have businesses that are devastated and only now are facing the reality of whether and how to survive. We have the full resources of our federal, state, and county governments, the community, and our congressional delegation, all focused on the necessary efforts that are required for Maui today. We have, as you know already, at least 3 investigations, full investigations, independent investigations, and we all know that we have a number of lawsuits that have already been filed, and these are all fact-finding exercises that in time will bring out the answers to many of the questions that this committee have asked. And all of this is where our efforts should remain for now. All of which is to say that while we in Congress have a very critical role, and I agree with you, Mr. Chair, it's not too early to ask these questions, we should not disrupt in what we're doing today what is necessary to be done for Maui. And so there will be a time for Congress, I think, to delve more deeply into exactly what happened and to learn the lessons of Maui when some stability has been restored. Third, how can Congress best help now, today? First of all, we ask you and encourage you to visit Maui, to see and feel for yourself this tragedy. This is something that we welcome the President, we welcome the Speaker, we've welcomed already many of our colleagues. Nothing can replace that sense of understanding to do that. And second, we ask that we all collectively fund the Disaster Relief Fund by the Federal Emergency Management Agency, which is running dangerously low now. So these are two concrete areas that we can help Maui and all of us right now. But again, for Maui, for our Hawaii, my deepest appreciation for your constructive effort today for this hearing, and we completely stand ready to work with you, not only for Maui, but for the rest of our country to make sure that the lessons are learned. Thank you again.
Thank you very much for your comments, and now recognize Representative Jill Takuda for her 5-minute statement. Thank you.
Thank you. Chairman Griffith, Ranking Member Castor, Ranking Member Pallone, and members of the subcommittee. Mahalo again for your outpouring of support and commitment to our people. And thank you for allowing us this opportunity to testify about the wildfires that have devastated our Maui Ohana. I join Representative Case in inviting you to come and truly see and experience what has happened in our community, but more importantly, work with us to rebuild and recover from the devastation. Like all of you, I want answers. Not a day has gone by since the fires that I don't ask myself questions. How did this happen? What could have been done differently? How do we make sure this never happens again? How do we keep our people, our families safe? What now? Why? Why? That's the hardest question. I've also been asked many questions myself. When can I go home? Is the air safe to breathe? How will I pay my mortgage? Who can help me rebuild my business? How do I tell my student their friend isn't coming back? One question that sticks with me came shortly after the fire. A woman approached me and asked me if I could please help her find her husband. They'd gone to all the shelters, the hospitals, they'd given the DNA sample. What should she do now? She showed me a picture of her husband's burned out truck on the side of the road and asked me why the back door was open. Could he have escaped? Where is he? I could not answer her questions that day. All I could do was hold her hand, put my arm around her, and try to comfort her. In the weeks that followed, I looked for her husband's name on every single list. First, it was on the list of the missing. A few weeks ago, identified among the dead. I share this with you because there are so many questions about this tragedy that must be answered. People want answers, people want accountability, but our people are still grieving. They are frustrated, they are grappling with their new reality, they are justifiably mad that this has even happened to them. Far too many lives were lost in our very tight-knit community. Some are still waiting anxiously of news of their loved ones, and while they want some kind of resolution, they fear that knock on the door. While it's been almost 2 months, most still have not seen the remains of their home, with the first Lahaina residents being allowed back into their property just this week. The question we need to be focused on right now is how do we keep the help coming to Maui? We are 2 days away from a shutdown. Our people have gone through enough. The wheels of government must continue to turn and work to provide them the support and the resources they so desperately need to focus on recovery and rebuilding. Last week in a House Transportation and Infrastructure Subcommittee hearing, one of our colleagues suggested that the Maui fires were the result of Hawaii's pursuit of renewable energy. He then insinuated to FEMA Administrator Criswell that the federal government should not support recovery efforts for disasters in states that pursue net zero policies. Unfortunately, these comments betray not only a lack of understanding of Hawaii's unique energy infrastructure, but also a willingness to exploit our pain and tragedy for political gain. What we already knew before this disaster is that Lahaina is not unique among rural and remote communities across our country that have not received enough investment and where ensuring access to services is a constant struggle. This tragedy has highlighted the disparities that exist in energy, telecommunications, transportation, and water infrastructure. Our rural communities lack access to healthcare, mental health services, emergency services, and more. The investments we have made through the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act and the Inflation Reduction Act must be but a first step, and we understand the urgent need to do more. The path ahead for Maui will be long and difficult. It will take years, if not generations, to recover from this disaster. Homes, schools, businesses, they will be rebuilt, but the scars of the trauma on our people, on our families, will take much, much longer to heal. As various local, state, and federal entities continue to investigate the cause of the Maui wildfires and the emergency response across all levels of government, we must not forget the human element of this tragedy. Behind the whirlwind of investigation and litigation that have emerged from this disaster is a community still healing and fighting every day to recover and rebuild. While the historic banyan tree has become a symbol of hope, we must never forget that the people of Lahaina are her roots. There is no Lahaina without the voice, the vision of her people. Like you and I, our people have questions too. We all deserve answers. Right now, the most important question must be, how do we continue to keep the help coming to Maui? Mahalo for allowing myself and Congressman Case to testify before this committee. We will continue to count on your support and commitment in the weeks, months, and years to come. With all of you as part of now our extended Maui Ohana, I have hope that our people can and will continue to stay Maui strong. I yield back.